Hello everyone. Today we will continue discussing termites by starting with their agricultural revolution. The most famous thing about termites is that they love to eat wood. Right? Whether it is wooden structures in buildings or furniture, floors, even books made from wood fibers. All of these can attract termites. Moreover, because wood is hard to digest, there are very few animals in the world that feed on it. For example, in a previous episode, we introduced a marine animal called the shipworm, which is a type of bivalve that feeds on wood, and was rampant during the era when ships were made from wood. They were nicknamed the termites of the sea. Therefore, termites have become synonymous with eating wood. So here is an interesting question. Since most animals cannot digest wood, why can termites do it? This was mentioned in a previous episode about shipworms, stating that they have many symbiotic bacteria in their intestines. These bacteria secrete digestive enzymes for breaking down lignin and cellulose, helping the shipworms to digest wood and obtain energy. Similarly, termites also follow this principle. They have a group of helpers inside their intestines as well. In last week's episode, we mentioned the relationship between silver-tailed rat, cockroaches and termites. One piece of evidence is that the symbiotic microorganisms in their intestines are highly similar, including various bacteria and protists. These help them digest wood, and they are all of the same type of bacteria and protists. This indicates that the ability of termites to eat wood comes from their cockroach ancestors. It is a hereditary skill. Therefore, this leads to an interesting phenomenon. The older and earlier termites were more dependent on eating wood. However, as termite families diversified over time, their preferences changed. In fact, most modern termites do not primarily feed on wood anymore. Even some of the highest-level termites have started cultivating mushrooms for food. So how did the living standards of termites improve? This is particularly interesting and can be divided into 4 stages. The first stage could be called wood-dwelling termites. These are the oldest termites, with very simple lifestyles. They live directly in wood, staying there their entire lives, both eating and living within the same piece of wood, much like shipworms. Once they have turned the wood into a honeycomb, and there is nothing left to eat, that is when the nest ends. For example, there is a type of termite called mound-building termites or drywood termites. They live, eat and reside inside the wood, relying on symbiotic protists and bacteria in their intestines for digestion. They push out sawdust and excrement from holes, forming piles like sand, hence the name mound-building termites. Living within the wood represents the first stage of termite life. However, living in a single piece of wood throughout one's life is quite limiting. So in the second stage, some termites came up with an idea. They didn't want to be confined to just one tree, but instead started cultivating grass outside, both on trees and underground. This way, they could eat from surrounding pieces of wood. However, there was a problem with this approach. Termite bodies are designed for hiding inside wood their entire lives, without seeing daylight. Their outer skin is white, tender, and very thin, making them susceptible to moisture when exposed outside. Additionally, their vision has deteriorated over time, making them unsuitable for venturing out in search of food. So how did they solve this? They built tunnels connecting the nest with wood sources, thus avoiding exposure to light. This method was quite ingenious, often causing damage and mischief in people's lives. These termites are mainly of this type, such as the Formosan subterranean termite, and the Reticulotermes flavips, which cause significant harm. That is why you might see many tunnels they have built to find wood to eat. In the third stage, termites finally grew tired of eating wood. They thought that their ancestors ate wood but lived inside it for safety. Now living underground is also safe, so why stick to eating wood? It's not only hard to digest but lacks nutrition as well. So they wanted to change their diet. What did they discover? Termites have been chewing on wood for nearly 100 million years and were tired of it. They found that decaying wood was actually better, softer, easier to digest, and more nutritious. In human terms, this is because when wood rots, fungi often grow, digesting part of the lignin and cellulose into fungal filaments. So eating decaying wood means termites are also consuming these filaments, making it tastier. Later on, termites expanded their diet from decaying wood to other decayed plant materials, including fallen leaves, rotting grass, rotten roots, fungi, lichens, and even humus-rich inorganic matter found in the soil. They began consuming these substances, which were primarily plant fibers, but had been largely degraded by microorganisms, making them much easier to digest and more nutritious than pure wood. So at this point, the symbiotic microorganisms in the termite's gut have changed. Previously, there were fungi and bacteria, but now only bacteria remain. The fungi are no longer needed. This is the third stage of termites. From this stage onward, they are considered higher termites in biology, specifically within the subfamily Termitinae. Among all approximately 3,000 termite species, over two-thirds, about 21-25 species, belong to this category. In terms of numbers as well, these higher termites far outnumber those commonly known wood-eating termites that are often seen as destructive. Therefore, the vast majority of termites on Earth do not destroy wood. Furthermore, they do not cause destruction, but rather play a crucial role in the Earth's ecosystem. A significant portion of decaying plant matter is broken down by termites, and they act as scavengers, especially in tropical and subtropical regions, where there are large numbers of termites. Statistics show that about 50 to 90% of plant debris in tropical rainforests and savannas needs the help of termites for decomposition. Without them, if only microorganisms were responsible, hundreds of billions of tons of dead wood, leaves, and grass would not decompose each year, piling up on the ground. In just a few decades, several meters of plant debris could accumulate on the surface, preventing new seeds from germinating and leading to the collapse of ecosystems. Thus, termites are absolutely essential for tropical and subtropical ecosystems, playing a very important role. This section mainly highlights the contributions of these third-stage termites that feed on decaying plant matter. Of course, not all credit can be attributed solely to termites because many plants were digested by fungi, as mentioned earlier. Essentially, it was a collaboration between termites and fungi. Over time, this cooperation led to new ideas for the termites. If fungi could perfectly digest plant debris, why not leave everything to them? With this idea, the termite agricultural revolution began. There is a subfamily within Termitinae called Macrotermitinae, which includes about 12 genera and over 350 species of termites. These are the fourth stage termites, representing the highest form among higher termites. They discovered that certain fungi not only digest plant debris, but also grow well in termite nests, with their mycelium being particularly delicious, nutritious and edible. Thus, they had the idea to cultivate these fungi within their nests to start farming. This situation is very much like another insect family, leafcutter ants. Leafcutter ants also farm fungi for food. When discussing agricultural insects, people often think of them first. However, as mentioned previously, termites appeared on Earth several million years earlier than ants. Therefore, the practice of agriculture actually started with termites. Based on solid fossil evidence, there were termite farmers growing mushrooms at least 31 million years ago. Combining this with DNA analysis, it can even be traced back to 50 million to 80 million years ago. In any case, much earlier than ants. So how exactly do they cultivate these mushrooms? Well, the termite technology for this is already highly advanced. First, they will collect materials for growing mushrooms from all over, such as wood shavings, fallen leaves, and other plant debris, like dry grass. These materials, when exposed to air for a long time, are actually already covered with fungal spores. Then, the termites will consume these materials, but not for digestion and absorption as food. Rather, they pre-process them. Why pre-process them? There are mainly two reasons. One is that, after chewing and softening with digestive fluids, it becomes more conducive to fungal growth. The other reason is that there are often many kinds of fungi attached to the raw materials, not all suitable for cultivation. Those suitable belong to the termite fungus genus. Termites need to screen out as much as possible in their intestines, leaving only the spores of the termite fungus while largely deactivating others. Then, termites will build a fungal garden inside the nest by excreting processed plant debris as a culture medium, which is essentially their mushroom cultivation base. Soon, mycelium will grow on these culture media. As the mycelium grows more and matures, small white nodules or spherical bodies form on its surface. These spheres are rich in nutrients and contain spores for new strains of fungi, serving as the primary food source for termites, akin to crop yields. Additionally, once the culture medium is nearly depleted, termites will consume the mycelium itself, turning it into food. This is their cultivation model. Therefore, from this perspective, calling what they do growing mushrooms might be inaccurate because they don't eat the fruiting bodies of fungi or mushrooms. Moreover, as termites continuously harvest nutrients from the fungi have little energy left to grow mushrooms. Termites also prefer not to waste fungal energy on growing mushrooms. However, under certain conditions, such as poor management, where some fungal gardens are harvested too late and allow mushrooms to grow, or during breeding seasons, when new nests need seeds for agricultural development, mature nests might produce mushrooms to disperse spores into the environment. These are the main scenarios in which mushrooms appear. Although termites don't eat these mushrooms, humans have taken notice and turned them into a delicacy. In China, there is a legend of 4 great rulers, one of whom cultivated a mushroom called chicken mushroom, also known as chicken silk fungus. This mushroom, grown by termites, reportedly tastes like chicken and is extremely rare, found only in termite nests. Its market price often reaches several hundred to thousands of dollars per pound, making it an upscale delicacy. Given the demand, scientists have attempted various modern cultivation techniques, but have struggled to replicate these conditions, even when bringing termite culture media with mycelium into laboratories. This indicates that the symbiotic relationship between termites and their fungi is far more complex than imagined, having co-evolved for over 30 million years. Only termites know how to cultivate mushrooms from their fungus, possibly through secretions or environmental factors, such as temperature, humidity, oxygen, and carbon dioxide levels. Moreover, once termite nests are abandoned or disturbed, other fungi quickly replace the termite fungus due to its low competitive survival ability without termite protection. Thus, it is akin to a farm that thrives only with human cultivation. Otherwise, it would be overrun by weeds. Therefore, termite fungus can indeed be seen as a domesticated crop. Another notable feature of termites is their construction of termite mounds, which scientists find fascinating. Due to their sophisticated structures for temperature and humidity regulation, without energy sources or air conditioning, they maintain optimal internal environments through the design of these mounds. Once outer walls are damaged, termites quickly repair them to prevent enemy invasion and preserve microclimates. In terms of scale, some termite mounds in Africa can reach up to 12.8 meters high, equivalent to a 4-story building. The largest concentration of termite mounds is found in northeastern Brazil, with approximately 2 billion mounds covering an area as large as New Jersey. Some of these colonies have been active for over 4,000 years, and the oldest known active colony in South Africa is estimated to be around 34,000 years old, showcasing their remarkable reproductive capabilities. Additionally, there are other famous termite mounds, such as those built by magnetic termites in Australia. These mounds have a flat, blade-like shape oriented along the north-south axis, allowing them to receive morning and evening sunlight, while avoiding midday heat. This design is an ingenious adaptation to local climatic conditions,